Squabble, a noisy quarrel about something petty or trivial. I'm Carter.
And I'm Jacob.
And welcome to our podcast.
Yes, welcome.
In this episode, what is this, episode 3?
3, I believe.
Yeah, this is episode 3. I want to begin by saying we're definitely still working out kinks of all our episodes. Our other 2 episodes, they're good. You should listen to them.
Yes, please do.
But they are still... we're still in work in progress. We're getting the mics worked out, the volume worked out. So it's a little iffy on those other 2 episodes, but we're definitely getting there. This one's going to be a lot better.
Yes, we're improving with every episode and every second of it.
Yeah, and so let's get right into this one. What's this episode about, Jacob?
Oh, well, this episode is about sports, traditional and non-traditional sports. The Olympics is part of our conversation probably, and really at the base of this is what makes a sport a sport. We're specifically talking about esports and whether they should be considered a sport or not. I am very much in favor of esports being considered a real sport.
Yeah, so first I want to say a lot of people probably don't even know what an esport is.
Oh yeah,
so
you might
basically
want to define that.
We're talking about whether video games should be an official sport.
And not just any video games, not you get home from a long day of work and just sink into your couch and log on to your video game and start playing. We're talking about professional video game players who make a living off of this and play it for hours, 10 hours a day and train.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
I mean, there's people, believe it or not, there are people out there who make money playing video games just a lot. They just play, that's all they do. They just play video games and they make bukus of money. And so the discussion today is whether, and what that is called is they do competitions and stuff, and they win competitions and they get money from it. It's like a lot of money goes into this about the competitions and winning them. And so, and it's called esports. That's what it's called. Esports is video games. It's video game sports.
Yeah.
But esports are not an official sport. According to
not 100%.
Yeah, they're an e-sport. That's what they've been classified as.
In some countries, they are starting to get recognition as a real sport, as an official sport.
Like Japan is really popular.
Japan and South Korea specifically. I think Japan actually has announced it in like 2022.
Yeah, so we're going to be trying to figure out if video games should be a sport. And I'm Jacob is 100% esports all the way. He thinks that video games should be in the Olympics, probably.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, 100%. By the next Olympics, hopefully.
I am a gamer myself, so I do lean towards, video games should be a sport. But I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not as into this as he is. So I can definitely be swayed either way, and I'm gonna kind of be arguing for the opposite team.
Yeah, he's just going to play devil's advocate, basically.
I'm going to play devil's advocate
to make this
here.
more interesting.
Yeah, because and I might sway my own mind. I've heard arguments for both sides, and they're both pretty valid. So, do you want to get started on why you think it should be a sport?
Sure. Yeah. Let's get right into that. Okay. So I'm going to just go ahead and say that probably most of the reason, the main reason people that don't know a whole lot about this say that it shouldn't be a sport is strictly because it's not physical. There's not a lot of physical exertion.
Because you're sitting down and you're holding a controller.
Down, yes, or mouse and keyboard is typically what the pros use.
You're just doing, this is all you got? Wrist movement?
I say that's all hogwash.
Hogwash, interesting
Hogwash.
word.
Have you ever heard of the Olympics?
Yeah, I think everyone has heard of the Olympics, yes.
It's a pretty small sporting event. No, it's the biggest ever, probably.
Sure.
I don't have the exact numbers.
Sure.
But anyways, so to people that say that it's not a physical thing, there's no physical exertion, so therefore it's not a sport, I say to them, what about prone rifle shooting or archery?
Say that again. What was that?
Prone rifle shooting.
Oh, so like laying down and
No.
shooting.
Well, yeah, that too. Or like a non-moving target.
Okay. And that's an official sport?
Yeah, that was in the Olympic shooting of all sorts. And
okay. I see what you're saying. You're saying that video games don't have physical exertion,
but neither do shooters, professional marksmen.
Okay,
marksmen.
but I would argue that this like shooting takes a lot more, I guess, skill, and it takes a lot more knowledge. You have to know like what kind of gun you're using. You got to take into account like dynamics of like how windy it is. Like marksmen, they train for like years to be like to be the best marksman. You know, you got to know what kind of. There's a lot of knowledge that goes into it. What kind of gun you're using, what kind of bullets you're using.
Okay, well, so
gun attachments.
I can argue the same thing goes into esports, which it does. Now, I'm going to use Overwatch as my main example because that's what I know most about. I play that one.
What is Overwatch?
That's what I was getting at. Overwatch is a team-based first-person shooter where you pretty much just have a team and you have to do certain objectives. It's an online game. You play against other teams in real time. So I'll use that one as most example, even though one of the most popular, if not the most popular video game is probably League of Legends, which is it's a lot like Overwatch. It's another team-based online. I don't think it's first person though.
It's not. I don't think.
Yeah, it's third person, but it's still an online team-based game. So you have to know lots of things to be a professional esports player. I mean, it's hard to do numbers and exact like measurements with this to say how much skill something takes. But I'm just going to say in the game specifically Overwatch, you have to know everybody on your team, all of their abilities, all of their ultimates, which is a dynamic of the game.
So you're saying that...
you have to know just as many things.
Yeah, you're saying it takes equal amount of knowledge, training, and skill.
100%.
So the same amount of knowledge, training, and skill goes into video gaming.
Specifically training.
And some sports.
Oh, yeah. In training, a popular gamer called Jake... I saw an interview with him. He said he plays 8 to 10 hours every day of the video game. Just training.
As a gamer, I can't argue with that. It takes a lot of training and practice, and like I'm pretty good myself, I got to admit. And I'm good because I've been playing video games since I could hold a controller, and I have to credit my skills. I beat a lot of against many people. I beat them. I'm good. I'm better than them. I can just tell. I win all the time.
Yeah,
and that's because I practiced a lot. And so somebody who doesn't play video games a lot, or
it's hard for them to understand.
Yeah, so like
I don't blame them.
Yeah, like people who just don't play video games that much. They say, well, it doesn't take that much skill.
It's easy. Yeah,
it's easy.
You just sit down and you learn it in 5 minutes. You press like 3 buttons. You know.
Right, and I think they have this outlook that video games they were made for entertainment, and it's just for fun.
I mean, they were originally made for just strictly entertainment purposes.
And they look at games like
Mario Kart.
Well, yeah, like RPGs, games that you just that the only thing you do is you talk to Bill Bob over here, and Bill Bob says, "Go slay that dragon," and then you go slay a dragon, and you're like, "That's it." But like, that's not really competitive.
No, not at all.
That's not a competitive game. You're not going against anybody.
There's like speed running, but that's not competitive gaming.
Sure, and like they don't understand that that in the game that Jacob was talking about, Overwatch, you're playing with 5 other people. Against
talking
6.
to them in real life. I mean, there's teamwork.
Yeah, you're actually talking to them. And
strategy.
You can't win. You can't win. It's not. It is for fun, and it's super fun, and it's really entertaining.
Just like football or.
Yeah, but you do win, and you have to to win, to get points in the game, to progress, level up, you have to be better than the other team.
Than other people.
Yeah, you have to be better than other people. And so there's a huge sense of competitiveness.
Oh,
right?
Very. It can get very heated. In a competitive video game.
But I'm arguing for the devil's advocate here, so I'd like to bring up the definition of the word sport. An activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. So dictionary.com defines the word sport as a physical exertion.
So you're saying that, first, you can argue the definition of physical exertion at that point. I mean, that sounds silly, yeah, but like,
sure.
what qualifies. Because like I said, I brought up shooting. It takes some, obviously, but it takes very little. I mean, you could be a very unhealthy person and shoot a gun very well. Or
Sure.
I could even argue golf. You have to have some, obviously. You have to have like consistency with your swings.
Yeah.
So you have to have body control. But other than that, it takes very little.
So you're saying
you don't have to be a picture perfect ideal of fitness to be a golfer or a shooter.
Yeah. So I would agree. I think society defines
or a curler.
I think society defines what a sport is, because
I agree.
When
Partly,
sports
at least.
when sports were first invented, nobody said, "Hey, let's make a sport." They just started.
Yeah.
They
said, "Look at this ball.
Roman times.
I'm going to see how far I can throw this." And the guy says, "I'll
Sure.
catch it." You know?
I don't think that's exactly what happened, but
it was something like that. I'm sure.
I did a little bit of research, not a whole lot, so I might be completely just
don't take
lying.
his word for it.
But it started in Rome when
I agree.
It started play fighting. People started
Olympics.
selling fake weapons because the children wanted to act as the soldiers. Like that, people looked up to the soldiers of the Roman times. So children looked up to the soldiers. So people would actually sell children weapons, wooden swords. Like that was a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the children would fight.
Yeah.
That's it.
Also,
and that was how it kind of became, I bet I'm better with the sword. And the other guy would be like, you want to bet? And
and then they started fighting.
Yeah. And so society kind of builds, well, what is a sport? So shooting was probably not a sport once, obviously. But then someone was like, well, I think it should be a sport. And everybody kind of went, oh, okay, I agree. It should be a sport. And now it's a sport. I mean, we just decided it should be a sport.
Okay, so another thing in favor of esports is that there's been many studies that indicate that physical fitness highly helps with your mental health. That the more physically fit if you are very fit, well, not necessarily like a bodybuilder, but if you are in good shape,
sure,
then you are going to have much better focus. You're going to have much better memory. I've read it improves sleep, which is kind of, but like I'm saying, it improves your health, your mental health quite a bit.
But you can be mega fat and play video games.
Oh yes, for sure you can. But you can also do that with golf and shooting. And I'm not saying that all pro gamers, if you look at them, are the perfect fitness. I mean, there's plenty of I know there are plenty of overweight.
That doesn't
pro gamers,
really change the fact. That doesn't really change the definition of what should be a sport or not.
Well, yeah, but what I'm
Whether
saying,
you're fit,
what I'm saying is a lot of pro video gaming teams have personal trainers that they hire to come and train their team and do exercising.
Physical.
Yeah, they do a lot of physical training
exercises,
so that they can be able to focus better in game and do things. Like a lot of people will do that. They'll have to, like a lot of teams, when you sign on, you'll have to go and you'll have to work out with the rest of your team. It's like a requirement for a lot of teams.
And you're saying that, are you saying that is the physical exertion part of the sport definition?
I'm saying that there is another bonus that you can't, kind of a fun fact almost, but like, I'm just saying that it will help. I mean, you're not going to go in and just be completely, you're not going to see any like obese video pro gamers, I mean, sure, there might be a few very good people that are obese, but like none of like the iconic ones or famous ones. Like I can't think of any that are like that overweight.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
like it does help to be fit.
Yeah. And
there's plenty of like jacked pro gamers. Like I can find pictures.
Bodybuilders almost.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But whether you're fit or not fit doesn't determine the sport. You could have a bunch of buff people knitting, but knitting is not a sport. Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. Are there people
competitive knitting?
I don't know. But I would go. My argument is always, I'm not like 100% on the esports side, and I'm not 100% on the other side. I think it could go either way, really, and I understand both arguments. I lean a little bit towards Jacob's side for the sole reason that if chess is a sport, which it is, it's acknowledged by over 100 countries. as an official competitive sport, chess. If chess is a sport, then video games kind of have to be a sport because it's basically the same. It's basically the same thing, except chess is moving physical pieces, while video games are moving virtual pieces. But
it really
it's the same.
Yeah,
and
a competitive video game really is a very intricate match of chess. It's all mind games. It's all strategy.
Yeah. So and my thing is like list the attributes of chess, or like what do you need to be good at chess? Well, it takes strategy. You have to predict your opponent's moves. Focus. You have to you got to be focused.
A large knowledge of the game at hand. A large knowledge of chess.
You need a lot of chess knowledge.
Yeah.
And the same aspects come with being good at video games. And I mean, not all video games, definitely.
Oh yeah, and, for sure. Like Mario Kart. Like I feel like a lot of video game laymen, I will say, people that are not very educated in video games. I feel like when you say video games, a lot of people think of Mario. Games like that, games like Mario or like Skyrim, games that aren't really considered an esport, really.
Right.
People don't think of things like Overwatch or League of Legends. People just don't. That doesn't come to mind.
Sure. So like, look up here what defines an esport, because I think most of the people that argue that video games aren't a sport don't really know.
Yeah, they don't understand.
They don't really. I would say the majority of people that say sports or video games can never be a sport are people that don't play video games, because and you kind of have to be to make a legit judgment on whether they should be a sport or not. You kind of have to be play video games. And not only that, I think you have to play sports too. I mean, you have to know. Yeah. So like, and that's why I think I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I don't know. I'm
Gamer? You're not like a pro.
No, I'm not a pretty good gamer. I mean, like I'm not biased, because I play both. I'm playing volleyball right now. I played baseball for a large portion of my childhood. But I also have been into video games. So I kind of come from both sides. So I think I'm pretty good at saying, well, I'm pretty good at giving our arguments. And a lot of people who disagree, I think, come from one side or another. A lot of people that think video games should be a sport, they just play video games. They never even played sports. So their argument isn't very valid. But then a lot of people come from, they just play sports. So they have never played video games. So they say the opposite. They say, no, video games should not be a sport. But they never play video games. So you kind of, to make a valid argument, you have to understand both sides. And a lot of people don't, I don't think.
Yeah, for sure. Did you want to hear the definition of
esports? Yeah, what's the definition of esports?
There's not really an official one. I mean,
sure.
Not that I can find. There's dictionary.com, and all it says is competitive tournaments of video games. That's all it says. So, I mean,
sure. And
there's obviously like especially the older generations, they don't really understand. Like the people that are officially putting words in dictionaries, I'm sure they're I would almost say biased against video games, But I think we need to move on from the physical aspect of this a little bit, because I mean, I think it's really just opinionated. I mean, I don't think you can find a set in stone thing. So We're going to say a lot. I feel like another argument against it is that, well, it's not really a real thing, or it's not a big thing, It's like everybody knows about football or basketball.
Too small.
Yeah, it's like it's not really official.
Only a handful of people like to play competitive video games.
Well, I would like to point out that the global revenue for the esports industry is currently estimated at $463 million. And a lot of professionals are saying that it's going to almost double by 2019 in a year.
How much did you say?
$463 million. That's the global revenue. That's like
That's a lot of money.
Estimated. Yeah, that is a lot of money. And obviously there is Twitch is a popular streaming website specifically for video games. You can stream other things, but it's for video games.
Sure.
And lots of people watch. Lots of people I mean, there's a crowd around it. It's like a cult following almost.
It's a community.
It's a thing. Like XQC is a really popular streamer. He gets like 500,000 views, like every time, like every stream. Probably not every stream, but lots of streams. He streams like every night. Siegel is another really popular streamer, and he gets lots of views on all of his streams too. So they obviously have people supporting him. Let's see, where's the other things? They sell out in like Japan and Korea. They sell out whole like revenues in like
concerts.
Concert places where
basically when you go to watch a basketball game.
Yeah, they sell lots of tickets and people to go see it. Obviously, other companies recognize that it's worth a lot. Amazon, when they bought Twitch, they paid $970 million for the company.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for a website specifically to stream
for video games. Yes. Also, this is kind of back to the physicality thing, but I'd like to point this out. The International Olympics Committee has awarded medals in the history of the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, for town planning and drawing poetry. Does that sound like a sport to you?
It's true. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
A big reason that the video games aren't in Olympics, which is kind of like the main thing that all esports enthusiasts want, is kind of like the main goal to get it into the Olympics, is that the president of the IOC is against it for who knows why. He says, well, I do know why. This is what he says, at least. He says that esports are contrary to Olympic rules and values of sports.
Okay. Values of sports.
Yeah.
What do you think that values of sports?
Yeah. That's just a small quote. So, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about that exact interview
not
or
really
wherever
a lot
he said
to
that.
expand on.
Yeah, but let's see. They also said, this is what another guy that works with the IOC, another important guy, what's his name? I can't find his name. He's an expert on sports law. He said, he told Forbes, I believe that's a magazine, he said, many sports want to get Olympic. No, wait, dang it, that's not the right quote. I can't find the quote. Sorry. I mean, that's an okay quote. Anyways, they pretty much said that what they want is they want sports that are going to bring in a young generation, the generation of younger people to come so that they can keep it alive. This is probably one of the most popular sports of the younger generation. So what they said about not valuing sports and Olympic rules doesn't even coincide with the rest of their community, with the rest of the IOC, because they say they want sports that are going to bring in younger people.
Okay, but
Here it is. They focus primarily on appealing to young audiences and maximizing the game's general popularity. That's what they want. They're trying to get sports that are going to appeal to young audiences and maximize the game's general popularity. You're going to maximize it a lot. A lot more people are going to watch. If you put esports in the Olympics, you're going to get a whole community of gamers, new people coming to watch.
That I definitely can't argue with that. There is a huge community of people that
much bigger than you think. I saw a number earlier. I'm trying to find it.
There's a lot of people that follow almost religiously esports. You know.
Yeah. The global audience for esports is at about 300 million people.
That's a lot of people
that are fans of esports. Yeah.
And a lot of people. I've heard the argument that esports shouldn't be a sport and it definitely shouldn't be in the Olympics because nobody wants to watch that, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to watch someone play video games.
Yeah, it's kind of like when curling comes on at the Olympics. You click away, you change the channel.
Nobody wants to watch curling.
Yeah. 300 million people want to watch esports. How many people want to watch curling?
And let me kind of debunk this. Nobody wants to watch other people play video games. Like, why would you? My mom says it all the time. My mom will.
She hates esports.
Will see me watching somebody else play video games on YouTube, and she'll be like, "Why in the world would you want to watch someone play?" Well, my argument to that is, shouldn't that same comment could be said about any other sport? You're watching someone play basketball. Why would you want to watch someone else play? Isn't that weird to watch someone else play basketball when you could go outside and play basketball? Mm-hmm. And as for somebody who plays video games and plays sports, and I think it just boils down to, let me say this, it just boils down to someone who doesn't play video games, somebody who didn't grow up playing video games, someone who didn't grow up playing video games, somebody who just doesn't like video games or just doesn't really have an interest in video games, doesn't understand video games, and I don't think will ever understand unless they really get into it.
And it's hard to get. I mean, I'm gonna admit it. It's hard to just jump into video games and figure it out. You know.
And it's kind of like
it's a whole culture. Like if you haven't grown up doing it, like you said, then it really is very difficult to try to just explain it to someone, or even for them to log on. Because even if you just log on and start playing the video game for the first time, you're not going to automatically understand and be like, oh, this takes a lot of skill. Because you're not going to be very good at it if you've just started playing.
Right. I mean, and there's a large population of people who don't watch sports. Oh, it's boring to watch football.
I've just now started branching out to kind of watching and learning about traditional sports and the culture of that. But like before, like last year, I knew nothing about football or any like. If you had started like right now, I can kind of carry on a conversation about like players or like teams in the NFL and whatnot. But like before that, I wouldn't have at all. Like I wouldn't know anything.
And so it's kind of impossible for somebody who doesn't know about sports to say video games should be a sport, because they don't really know what a sport is. Why is it a sport? What makes a sport a sport? And I don't think there's not really a definitive answer for what a sport is or what makes a sport. And it's all socially based. It's all based in society. Like Japan, the Japanese, they love video games.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's actually, it's going to be recognized as an official sport at the Asian Games, which is kind of like their own little Olympics, in 2022. So the Asian Games are going to have officially recognized these sports as an official sport.
Yeah, but like if you go over here to America,
no, 90% of people won't even understand.
Most people are against video games being a sport. That seems ridiculous in their minds.
Really?
And I mean, you can't really change. I mean, you can change society, and I think society will change. This is like a future. Everything's changing. It's like,
for sure.
Football it wasn't always a sport. You know, it was just a game at one point until it became popular enough to be a sport. Somebody just made it up, right? But then it went on to become like one of the biggest sports ever. And I think a lot of people are I guess I don't want to say stuck in the past, because there's valid arguments for both sides. But I think as we progress in technology, I mean, technology is taking over the world, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
As we progress in technology, things are going to change. The Olympics
become
are going to change. Entertainment is going to change. It's already it's always changing, really.
Yeah, it's changing right now. I mean, day by day.
And so I think it's wrong to dismiss the possibility of video games being a sport. I think it's definitely something that could. If you don't think it should be a sport, that's fine. I think you're okay with saying that's. You have valid arguments, probably, maybe.
I mean, I disagree.
Hope you have valid arguments,
but it's not one of those things like that I am going to like dislike a person because they disagree. And I really do think that most of the reason that people disagree is not because they actually disagree.
They just don't understand.
They're just uneducated. And I mean, I really don't blame them. It's very hard. Like even if you were to watch like a pro video game, if you don't know about it, then it's not going to be impressive to you, you know? Like if they could watch the best pros in the world play, and to them it's just going to look like a video game.
Yeah,
they won't understand.
They don't know. So like Siegel could pick Genji, go
kill
around the secret wall, on Dorado, jump around the top, Dragon Blade and get a quad kill, and then deflect Rein's fire blast into Reinhardt and kill him. And everybody who's watching has no idea what I just said. They have absolutely no idea what came out of my mouth, and it's hard
is understandable.
And I can't even explain it.
Yeah, no.
It's a video game thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's kind of like explaining chess, which chess is hard to explain as it is, and there's like the rules are pretty fairly simple. Each of these things have their own rules, and once that's hard to explain.
And I think sports are the same way. By the way,
yeah.
I just think it's easier for people to understand.
Because people have a general
right now
happiness about it.
Well, yeah, because they grew up in it.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, no matter where you are, you grew up with the Super Bowl coming on every year. You grew up with your uncle just being a huge basketball fanatic. I mean,
yeah.
Video games are so new. Esports are so new. Nobody understands except for the people who are into it. And I think it'll change. Obviously,
for
I think
sure.
in the future,
Yeah.
esports are gonna, my kids are gonna love video games, and they're gonna grow
hopefully.
up knowing about esports and video and regular sports.
Traditional sports.
Sports.
That's the term. We don't want to say real sports because that is esports. Hopefully.
Well, technically, it's not a real sport yet, so I can say real sport.
Okay, I guess that's true. But there's actually the main thing that is the Paris Summer Games of 2024. The
what?
That's what we're pushing for. The Paris Summer Games, the Olympics that are going to be in Paris. Summer Games of 2024. That's what we're pushing for. So
you're part of you're pushing for it.
Yeah,
you're part of
my group of people pushing for it to be in the Olympics of 2024.
Okay.
So I highly encourage everybody watching to research this on your own
or listening
or watching or listening. I'm sorry, I was looking into the camera, so I said that. I highly encourage anybody that is absorbing this knowledge, no matter how or what platform, to do your own research on this and to not just toss it aside as video games. Just I don't know much about that, and it's video games, so I don't care.
I also encourage people to play video games.
Yeah, I do honestly, because it is the future. It's going to be the future.
This brings up another point, one of my last points, because we're almost out of time. But I think video games. A lot of people have this view of video games that it's bad for you because everybody's grown up with their mom saying, Don't watch too much TV. Don't look at your screen too much. Don't play too much video games. It's going to rot your brain. It's going to rot your brain if you keep watching that TV and playing those video games. Those video games are doing nothing for your brain. You're just moving your thumb back and forth.
They do, first of all.
And it could be argued both ways, I think. It could be argued that you're wasting time. You're wasting your life playing video games. You're just... You've been on that screen for 3 hours to go do something else, kind of thing. But I also think it could be argued that you're learning something. I mean, you're doing actual brain activity. Like nowadays, whenever we play video games, we talk to friends. We're always with friends.
We've got friends from Arizona.
We got friends from New Mexico that we talk to, that we chat with. We have it's fun. It's like hanging out with friends from across the world. You can meet all kinds of people. And that I think that's a great thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I do too. And also, not to mention, it teaches teamwork skills. It really does. I believe it teaches teamwork skills. I believe it can even teach leadership if you're playing consistently and trying to lead your team.
I think a lot of people right now are laughing.
I do agree. I believe that probably most people are either scoffing, rolling their eyes, or laughing. They're saying, video games can't teach you leadership and teamwork. But I 100% sure, this isn't even this. There's no numbers, but I just know from personal experience that it does. It teaches you those. It teaches you those skills.
I think one of the reasons that people have that view that you're not learning anything, or video games are just an after-school project. They're just for fun. I think the reason they have that view is because that's kind of what they started as. Like the older generation, not to say you guys are old, like our mom, for example.
Or dad, who actually does support video games, so
they grew up with Pac-Man. And there's one task in Pac-Man.
Get as far as possible.
There's one thing you can do. You move your wrist. Like that's you move Pac-Man back and forth, up and down. That's it, and you don't get hit by ghosts.
Even the iconic first video game was Pong, and
Pong.
You literally just go up and forth and make sure the ball doesn't pass.
Yeah, there's one skill involved with Pong. There's hardly a skill involved in Pong.
Don't miss the ball.
But that video games aren't like that anymore, and I don't think people realize that. I don't think people really want to realize that video games aren't really that anymore. Video games are
they've been
so much more.
Like you said, they've been taught that that's bad forever.
Technology is advancing, and I don't think, and a lot of people
they're not advancing with it. I hate to break it to you, you're not advancing.
Just to give you guys some contrast. There's Pong, which was one of the first video games. It was super popular. You know how to play Pong. You look at the game and you're like, yeah, I know how to play. Well,
you go up and down.
One of a new game that's coming out is a pirate game. It's an open world pirate game, which means that literally you can go forever. Anywhere. The game is so big, you can ride a pirate ship anywhere you want. That's crazy. And it's not Pong. You have to, first of all, you make a pirate, you create a character, you have to You have to fight other pirates. You have to hunt for treasure. You have to get quests. You have to raise and lower sails.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty
You have to change the direction of sails so that the wind catches you just right so that you can go faster. You can sink your boat. You have to repair your boat regularly. You have to load the cannons. You have to load your gun.
You have to even eat food in this one.
You have to eat food to gain health. Video games are a lot different, and I think that's one of the reasons that people don't think it should be a sport, because they don't get it. They don't understand that there's so much more into it. It's not just Pong.
Yeah, and one of the things is video games aren't, and this will change obviously as time goes on, but video games aren't very accessible right now. I mean, they're expensive, and you're referencing that pirate game. One of the complaints we had with that pirate game is that there were no instructions really. It just kind of threw you in there, and you kind of had to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, you can go buy a ball at Walmart. Any
for
kind
$5,
of ball for less than $5.
Yeah,
and you can go home and you can play catch. But you can't really do that with a video game. You got to buy a console.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money. So
obviously that's going to improve as time goes on. I understand.
I would like to also say that I began this conversation saying I was going to argue against you, but I kind of
you've
I
said
kind
some.
of failed.
It's okay.
Sorry for everybody out there.
But
I just can't.
Yeah, we're running out of time here. But once again, we're gonna end this. Are we ending this?
Yeah, we're ending this.
Okay, so the closing statements. I do highly suggest that you you research this somewhat. I mean, you don't have to go and purchase a video game or play any video games, but just kind of read up on what people's opinions are. Especially people that are more educated than us.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, people that are more educated than us, because we're not. Okay. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Hope
I've changed minds. I do. I hope I have. Or at least made people more open to it.
I don't hope that I changed someone's mind, but I hope that that I gave them a new perspective.
Yeah, that's exactly. I hope they're just more open to it.
I hope you stick to your opinion, but I think that you should have
a somewhat open mind.
Reasons why you should stick. That's what I think. Everyone should have an opinion, as long as they are educated in that opinion.
As long as they have their reasons for it.
That's the problem nowadays. Everyone's got an opinion, but nobody knows why. So why do you have your opinion? That's what I like to know.
And when you know your opinion, if you don't know your opinion, then be open to change it. If you don't know why you have an opinion, then be open to change it. But if you do know why, stick to it.
Yeah, if you think everything we said was just the stupidest thing you've ever heard,
good for you.
Good for you. As long as you know why that you think the way you think, and
you're not being a jerk about it.
Don't be a jerk about it. What's your problem?
Yeah, what's your deal? Chill.
Oh my gosh. My voice cracked. Okay, we're gonna end. We're just gonna leave.
Yeah, this is becoming a train wreck.
Yeah, it's a huge train wreck, and I got some notes.
Thank you for.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes, please do.
Squabble Podcast. That's at Squabble Podcast.
And SQUABBLE.
Okay, in case you didn't know how to spell Squabble, just Google it. Just technology, man, I'm telling you. You can also listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube at Squabble.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so thanks for listening. We'll snap you later.
Why did we say that?
You said it first, and I can't stop saying it.
Snap you later.
Snap you later.
Thanks.
Snap you later. Thank you.